I'll note firstly, you can't outsource your core competence. And you can't bring a marketer in even if the core competence isn't already there.
How can we make marketing more realistic? Don't expect anything that you haven't done. Because I know founders that have spent like 2 years closing their first couple of customers and then go, I want to hire someone who can close a customer in 2 weeks. Had this, they like some random job will pop up, right? It'd be like, oh, here's an inquiry for a person who wants to partner with us.
Yeah.
And sales goes, not my job.
Yeah.
And Mark's like, oh, no. And as moment you get that not my job mentality, it will snowball.
Yes.
And it will end terribly for everyone.
Yes.
You don't do the fundamentals right, which I'm sorry, that's not the marketing's job. That's the leadership, that's the owner, that's the fundamental market gap.
That's the company's job,
Yeah.
One of the things I often do when I go into a company is get anyone involved in growth-related activities, sales, marketing, agencies, whatever. Get them in the same room, and magic happens. You'd think it's strange that a salesperson has a question for an advertising agency. They do. You'd think it's strange that the advertising agency has questions for the sales team. They do.
Should CEOs or founders set the tone for everyone? And I said, I don't think they should. I think they do whether they want to or not.
Yeah.
It's like a parent, right? Oh, I don't want to be an influence on my child. Well, too late. Whether you're there or you're doing something or not, you're going to influence your kid.
Hello, Alex. How you doing? Part 2 of Marketing Wild Expectations.
I like it. Let me, I'm going to go straight into it. Do you mind if I go straight in?
Yeah, go for
So
it.
if you finish this in the last episode and go to this one, this hopefully flows nicely. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. But so marketing...
Are you though?
Not at all. Marketing expectations, we were saying before, are unrealistic. And the story I like to use is... And a really good analogy that helps with this when it comes to consulting to a lot of these companies is the Chicago Bulls. So those who don't know, Chicago Bulls 1992, I think, to 98 have like one of the best track records in sporting history. It was Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Phil someone or other. I can't remember the coach's name. Basically, they were just like the epitome of the elite team of the elite teams. All these leadership programs talk about how to create high-performing teams. These guys are like the biggest case study. There's a documentary called Last Dance, I think it is, on Netflix, and that goes through it. It's really, really good. But long story short, it is basically, the rise of Michael Jordan. He came onto the team. When he entered the team, he's like obviously a freak player. He's incredibly talented, but he was super pushy and was such a strong captain on the field and got the right people in and really pushed things to happen. And I think a lot of employers obviously want a Michael Jordan, star player, come onto the team, win premierships, right? On the surface level, that looked like, and he definitely played a huge point. But if you watch this series, you realize he could only do what he did because he had Scottie Pippen as his second-hand man who covered all the gaps that he missed. There was Dennis Rodman, who was like the best rebounder. Like he's like, Dennis, I just need you to catch every ball that comes down. And he did. He was a freak athlete. The coach was like one of the best coaches of all time. I'm gonna kill me to get it. Phil someone. He was like incredibly mentoring. He coached personally, professionally. Like he was just this really, really good coach. Their general manager was like insanely good. Like he got the best endorsements, funding, could afford the best players. Their training, like basically, when they zoomed out, they realized the success was, yes, Michael Jordan was a pinnacle of a lot of it, but it was this entire ecosystem that existed that led to their success. And I think it's such a strong analogy that I think companies, and particularly startups and growing companies, need to really think about. And because these star players, whilst they can have an impact and they're probably good, and when I say marketers, there's no marketer or salesperson or whoever that's going to rock up and score all these goals and win a premiership. The right one can slot in and help you get to that point. But what do they say? Champion teams...
champion teams better than a team of champions.
Correct,
yes.
Correct, which is so true. And so the only reason that works because all those people, and if you watch that documentary, The Chicago, they all work really, really well together. And like Michael Jordan, he definitely led it, and he was very instrumental. But like people see that and they go, well, I need the equivalent for my business. I need someone who's going to come in and sort of rock it up. And I like to say that person can exist, but the twist of irony is it needs to be you. Like if you're the leader of the company, you set the tone and you manage everything. And we said in the last episode about how marketing isn't it isn't a verb. It's not a doing word. It's not something you just do marketing. It's basically every touch point your company has. So from the way your salespeople integrate to the way your customer success people help your customers to the way your product works, it's all the same thing, and it all influences the market. So the only way you're going to have a success is having someone at a bird's eye view moving the chess pieces in the right way. So putting them in the right areas, making sure whatever you're doing for your lead gen, your branding, is that affiliated to the product? Is the product leading them through? Are they keeping people retained? Is there product-led growth mechanisms in there that's going to help refer people? How are we getting this whole flow? Because there is no, you cannot isolate it. It just does not work. And so I think there is an unrealistic expectations because a lot of people don't view marketing like that. They view it as you said, a verb, a doing word. So they hire people and say, come on and do stuff, please. Instead of realizing that, again, that whole point of Michael Jordan, they can come in and hopefully a good marketer can optimize your messaging, can create really good partnerships, can use the right channels, can work with your sales team to give them the right stuff, can work with your product team to get the right answers, can circle things back to the product team. But I've seen too many incidences where it's kind of funny. Someone with the exact same role title, almost in the same sort of company, have wildly different roles, but yet they're called the same title.
Yes.
And they're like, basically, this one person works across every department. They're working with the product team on their sprints, and they talk to the salespeople about feedback, and then they go to the content team about how to build it, and they're doing such a good job on orchestrating it all, which is exhausting, first of all. And because they belong to every team and they belong to no team. And so same with these other, on the reverse of that, I've seen people who waft into sales meetings and come to these demos and talk to the leadership team, and you zoom out and you're like, you're not doing anything. You are there and you're doing things, you're calling it marketing, but you're having absolutely no effect. And like, I'll call this out because I got really tired of these people because then they're the first people to blame others why things aren't working. And so that's, I think, the problem with, so you take like a product marketing role and you go on LinkedIn, go to jobs and type in product marketing, and you'll be baffled by some of the JDs because they have like go to market, product, sales enablement, content, and all these things. You're like, that is 17 roles in one. So you're either going to have someone who's going to burn out and do all of them, or you're going to have someone who's going to lie and pretend like they're doing them all and do nothing. I think good marketers need to work incredibly close with the leadership team. I think the best marketers out there have, depending on the size of the company, Microsoft's going to be very different to a smaller company, but they work very, very close with the nucleus of the company, of how it works, your brand, how it goes out there, what the stages are and how they engage with the market. A marketing team who is isolated from the leadership team in the early days is a huge red flag to me.
Yeah.
Insane. Like, unless you've got like a product that's, you're selling face masks during COVID or something ridiculous with huge demand, most of the time it's going to fall apart.
Yes. And it makes me bring up, or it comes to mind that on this we'll talk about like some ways to get around this and how to manage these expectations. But one is on that point, if a company's trying to hire in a marketer to be the superstar and they expect huge results from this person, I'll note firstly, you can't outsource your core competence. So and you can't bring a marketer in even to if the core competence isn't already there. Now, I had a chat to a founder, or a director in New Zealand actually recently, who wanted, who was building a franchise, was selling franchises to franchisees, had a few and was a bit like, oh crap, we don't have enough leads for these franchisees. This is part of what I offer them is leads because they buy the franchise, I send them work effectively because that's the value I bring them. And then wanted a marketer to come in and start generating all these leads. It's like, hang on a second, mate. Like, no, that's what you should be great at. If that's what you're selling, you should be great at that. No, do not outsource that for a start. And it was, the same type of red flags you'll see is the hit the ground running. This type of words are dangerous. Like if someone says hit the ground running with marketing, run. Just run. Hit the ground running the other way. You can't. You can't. There'd be all sorts of problems with that. And I think there's hit the ground running, and there's also like a sense of urgency. It's almost like that bell curve of like, to your point, you need to do all these things is extreme, and I agree, it's a red flag. But there is a sense of like, if you hire someone, they rock up and they spend 3 months reading the content, you're like, mate, you need a bit of urgency. Come on, let's get stuff moving. So, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think that phrase has always been that specific phrase. Obviously, urgency is fine, and urgency to act and do stuff as part of your role is fine. But get the ball rolling, or sorry, hit the ground running is a scary term for me, and I just will not work with someone who says that.
I agree.
So, and I certainly am not going to come into a company and basically fix their core competence.
Yep.
That's theirs.
Yep.
You know, that's what you sell. If that's what you sell, that's
100%.
You should be able to do that. Go on.
So I was going to say that the one thing on that there was a story, just reminded me before, of a company I worked with did a really good product, had a really good fit for it. Competition was low. They differentiated very, very, very well, right down to their like functionality. They're going really well. Anyway, long story short, in the early days, they had quite a large customer that said, "Oh, can you build this extra thing on the side of it?" And so they're like, "Okay, maybe this is part of the problem, solving the problem." Turns out, through a twist of fate, went through, they built it. The company had a massive restructure and they couldn't go ahead with it. So they're like, "Oh, we've got this new sort of a little product now. We don't want to archive it. We've built it. Let's try and sell it." But again, they didn't go, "Well, why does it exist? Who do we want to help? Why do we want to help them? What's the value? What's all the fundamental pieces of it?" And making sure that does it solve a gap in the market and the sales team used to get berated for not being able to sell it and being like, "You're not even making leads out of this. It's ridiculous." And we can't. And the amount of times we used to like come back and go, "There is a direct competitor to what this thing does that you can do." And this product was trying to get sold for anywhere between $3,000 to $4,000 a month, which is a lot for a SaaS product. And it wasn't became very complex and very worthwhile. But its direct competitor was $16 a month. And like to the point where, like you were saying, your core competency, if you don't do the fundamentals right, which I'm sorry, that's not the marketing's job. That's the leadership. That's the owner. That's the fundamental market gap.
That's the company's job.
Yeah. I think lean on and leverage marketing people to get like advice and guidance. Absolutely. But like you own the product gap in the market. You own what you're doing. The purpose of your company exists, which is your mission statement.
Yeah.
And for the life of us for years, and they kept investing into it and building it, and more money. It costed by the end millions of dollars, and got maybe 3 or 4 customers that all of them never really worked well. There's probably 2-3 users who actually used it well.
Yeah.
But as you said, that core competency was not done well, and they tried outsourcing. They tried a bunch of different things. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And I think that point there, before the marketing even comes into the picture, there's those fundamental, essentially go-to-market pieces that you have to nail.
Yes.
And if you do it well, marketing's easy.
Yes.
If you do it bad, marketing is impossible.
And I'd say that is your company, when we talk about core competence, are you good at this?
Yes.
You have to be good at the thing first.
Yep.
Like don't sell franchises if you're not good at it, or bake into the DNA of the company from the start that core competence of this person was good at selling franchises to potential franchisees. That was his strength, but you need the other side of it as well.
Yes. Yep.
And you can't outsource it. You need that as part of the company DNA.
Yep.
And like it's a fascinating thing to me, because I think about companies sometimes in terms of like living organisms almost, and it's just interesting that some can do stuff and some just can't. Like, and I'm not sure about the details of that SaaS pivot that you were talking about before, but I'm guessing it was something also that they were just never going to be good at. That company was never going to be good at.
Yeah, it wasn't the direction they were going in as well.
Yeah. Like it was. Yeah. It'd be, but okay. So what can you do about it? Always. Like, nail your core competence. Do not outsource your core competence for a start. Think about marketing in terms of anything the market thinks about you. Think it can work backwards from there, and have like marketers contribute to that.
Yes. Make it better.
Yes, and I've got an example of a friend who is buying a pharmacy soon, and he asked me what. And this is how I set expectations around what I think he should expect from marketing. And I said to him, he goes, "What would you do if to market this or to promote this or whatever?" And I started with what he was already going to do, which was to tap into the existing DNA of the brand and talk to the founder and what, this was built in a country town. Like, what was this brand built on? Why was this important? He's going to engage in the local community. And this is stuff he was already going to do. He was going to make sure the service is great, that type of thing, treat people with respect.
Mm.
So those three things, for example, will go a long, long way. And, you know, I said to him, I think that will get you a lot of the way there. I think you can probably add maybe 10 or 20% on that with smart merchandising. You can know things like, one thing I did say is know the gross product, so the gross profit margins of your products in dollars, not in percentages. Because often, because when you have, the practical way to approach that is when you have a customer in your store, and it could be any store or any customer that you're selling to, you make a certain amount of money out of that customer and you influence that interaction in that moment. So I don't care if your product is, you know, $100 and with a 30% COGS, which cost of goods, which means, you know, the gross profit on that is $70, versus a $500 product with a 40% COGS, but the profit in dollars is much higher in the second example. So a lot of people don't know that sometimes. So I encourage like any retailer to know gross profit dollars. What is your most, how do you put the most money in the bank now with this customer in front of you? What could they buy? So things like that, making sure that, you have like signage, stuff like that. And maybe if you were going to outsource any communications or advertising type of stuff, I would say in a small town, don't do it pretty much. If you are, define it more as having like a social media coordinator. It's like crystal clear. You know exactly what they're doing. And then I would set the expectation as a senior marketer who's not working on this, but just giving advice to a friend is what you can expect from that person. And from social media in general, which I would say is awareness. I'd say expect awareness. Don't expect huge influx in sales. It might give you, done well in combination with another few things, it may give you another 10% over the year. But that's the expectation I would set, as opposed to this will double your business. That's where we go wrong, because marketing to double your business in a context like that, not going to happen. Not going to happen. And he was already going to do all the things I suggested anyway. But he's thinking like a marketer already. And I'm just polishing a few things here and there. And I
think sometimes, hopefully, and I have had this with companies I've done an initial consult for, and I've been like, hey, I'm happy to help, but you're doing everything right. Like, I really wouldn't change anything. I can give you a hand as an extra pair of hands to come help with a few things, but like, I think you're doing everything right. I think you're doing all the right things. I think probably I was going to say with that one there, and I think having your point about how can we make marketing more realistic, and I think this also goes for sales and frankly any position. But two things. One is you can't expect, or you can, but I suggest don't expect anything that you haven't done. So if you're going to scale customers, or you want, because I know founders that have spent like 2 years closing their first couple of customers, and then go, I want to hire someone who can close a customer in 2 weeks, and you go, that's first of all, how? So you can't expect that. But in that same breath, right? If the founder can sit there and close deal after deal, week after week, for months on end, I think it's pretty fair that they go, well, I've done it. I'll show you how to do it. I've done it. I need you to do this, and you keep doing it. That's, to me, perfectly okay within reason. But I think the other one is all your JDs or even your metrics, your KPIs, make sure they're within your control. The sphere of influence. Things you can control, things you can influence, things you can't have control. And having, for example, I think the number one issue, if we take sales teams, for example, is they get monthly meetings or weekly meetings. It's like, what did you close? What did you generate? How much money? Those three are totally out of their control. They have absolutely no control over that. So there's no point. I think it's good understanding that to go, and frankly, you can get that from a dashboard. Pop it up. Who do we add to the CRM? What do we close? Cool. We're on target. We're not on target. I would spend, if I had an hour-long meeting with the sales team, I would spend 5 minutes. What are the numbers? Or maybe even like a cultural thing, right? What did we learn this week? Insights, qualitative. What do we find out? What should we stop doing? What should we start doing? Go through those points, and then spend like the 45 minutes, whatever's there left, and go through, so what's working, what's not working. And I think it's very fair to hold people accountable for what they can control. And from that, I mean, if it's like, hey, the goal is you got to make, 10 outbound emails a day, like personalized and targeted, for example. You've got to saying how many demos did you do this week, that's out of their control. Either someone's going to book a demo or they're not. I would say instead, how many outreaches did you do? How many people did you follow up with? How many partners did you inquire with? How many events did you attend? All that is within their control. And particularly for marketing and what we're talking about now is you've got cause and effect. You can control this front end of the conveyor belt. You can't control the end. So I think it's very fair. And I'm a fan of be quite bullish and go. I've had sales meetings where you go, oh, we had a few good conversations last week, and drop the hammer on them to go, that's bullshit. What did you do? Tell me what from Monday to Friday. What did you do? And because if you're making 100 calls a week and nothing's happening, well, that to me says whatever you're saying in those calls isn't working. Who you're trying to call isn't, okay, or maybe there's something internally with the product. If that's across the board, okay, there's something the company's doing wrong. But to grade them on how much money they're making, how many leads they're generating, they can't control that. And I think it's a matter of testing those things to go, all right, we do this amount of effort every week, and every week, are the results getting better? No. Well, then we have to change something. It's either, what do they say? The three things: skill, targeting, and effort. If your effort's consistent and your targeting is good, then maybe you need to be upskilled, or vice versa, whatever those ones are. And same with marketing, right? If you come on and you go, okay, I want you to post 3 LinkedIn posts a week, 3 social posts. I want to have a paid ad running. I want you to get feedback from 3 of our customers a week, or whatever those things are, and they don't do that, then it might be unrealistic, I'm not sure, but at least then you're in control and go, well, why didn't you call the customer? Oh, I'm not sure. Well, that's in your control, mate. So you need to do that. Yeah, so I think the realistic, unrealistic, whatever's in their control, and say, if anything happens externally, can this person still do these tasks every week? And I think I've got a framework that I use, and it's got like tests for the month or for the week. What am I going to do for the week? This. What do I think is going to happen? Hopefully I book 3 meetings, or hopefully my ad creates this many leads, or hopefully this happens here and we close these deals. And then at the end of the week, we fill it out. How many did we get? This succeeded, this failed. And week after week, if it's like, hey, our outbound is failing every time, it's like, okay, well, let's check that out. Why is it failing? What are we saying? How are we saying it? Who are we saying it to? Because I think all that middle stuff that, as you say, is out of their control, that gets lumped onto these sales and marketing people. And you're like, I can't control that. And it's not that they're bad employees; they physically can't control the weather. Like you're asking them to control the weather. So yeah, I don't know. What's your final thoughts for your recommendation to people?
I think what you could do in those meetings as well is, or look at someone listening in, CEO, director, whatever, founder, is you can communicate the full story all the time and really reiterate this person's role in the buying process. One of the things I often do when I go into a company is get anyone involved in growth related activities, which is still everyone, but sales, marketing, agencies, whatever, get them in the same room and magic happens. You think it's strange that a salesperson has a question for an advertising agency. They do. You'd think it's strange that an advertising agency has questions for the sales team. They do. And because that context helps everyone be more effective and work together. So my view is, as the founder or the CEO, I think you should know the buying process. You should understand that pretty well, and the market pretty well. Communicate people's role in that. Here's how you contribute to it, and here's why you're doing what you're doing, and why I need you to do this.
Yes.
And make them feel part of it.
Yes.
Don't silo them, and that's what goes wrong, is this siloing bullshit, and we set up silos, and again, the customer doesn't care. You're one brand to the customer. They don't care about the marketing silo and the sales silo and all the bullshit. Don't silo. Communicate the full story often, and reiterate people's contribution to that. Yep.
Because I think that person there is the sporting analogy is the coach or the general manager, whoever it is. Like, they need to go to the team and go, right, defense, I need you doing this. This person, I need you doing that. And being very, very clear, because I think also if the culture is not good and people resent each other, they naturally, and I've seen this every single company that has had this, they like some random job will pop up, right? It'd be like, oh, here's an inquiry for a person who wants to partner with us.
Yeah. And
sales goes, not my job.
Yeah.
And Mark's like, no. And as moment you get that not my job mentality, it will snowball.
Yes.
And it will end terribly for everyone.
Yes.
So there's something rotting there, whether it's an employee who's aggravated or someone's done something, it's something that's rotting from the inside that you've got to pull out, because it'll end worse and worse and worse. And I think that's why I feel like good leaders, and I always say this, particularly for startups, the founder will give me a better indication of the company's success than the product ever will.
Yes.
And like, this product can do these things. Like, ideas to me aren't worth anything. And a good founder though, who can use a good founder with a good idea at a good time. Yes, all these things sort of matter. But the companies that do well is always because of the founder. Always. It's never the product. It's the founder's ability to manage it every single time. And if we're doing early investing into seeded companies, it'll always be, I would rather spend 90% of my time with the founder. I want to know everything about them, their experience, what they've done, how they're thinking, what's the next couple of years look like, more than I care about what the product looks like every single time. And that's not to lump all the responsibility on with them.
But they are the coach. That's a good...
They are the coach.
Yeah.
And this is... I saw a thing today on LinkedIn that said, should CEOs or founders set the tone for everyone? And I commented under it and I said, I don't think they should. I think they do whether they want to or not.
Yeah.
It's not about pushing all the responsibility to them.
It's just about reality.
Yeah. It's like a parent, right? Oh, I don't want to be an influence on my child. Well, too late. Whether you're there or you're doing something or not, you're going to influence your kid.
Yes.
Like, whether you try or you don't try, it's going to have an effect.
Yes.
So the same as if you're a boss or you're a manager or a founder, you took that responsibility on.
Yes.
You're going to influence them. And you hope you do it right, because if you do it wrong, it's going to end badly for you as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, very cool. I think we've solved all the problems with sales and marketing, and probably the world as a whole. But the coach analogy is a great one. That's a great one, because that's if you think about yourself as a coach, if you're the CEO or the founder, director, you would only expect certain things from each person, and you just want them to do their job on the team well. Yep. So that's amazing. I love that one.
Awesome.
We will talk again on the next episode about lessons we've learned. Actually, we're going to do a fun one. Lessons we've learned from doing this podcast for 22 episodes now.
Well, let's get meta now and call us on our own crap and unpack it.
So episode 22 is going to be what we've learned from this season of the podcast, should I say, 22 episodes in as of next episode. Tune in for that. Get excited. I don't control what you do, but I'm trying to influence you.
I can't control if you like this, but I can influence if you like this.
So subscribe.
Nice.
See you soon.
Thanks, mate.